Hi, part two, because my tech ran out of memory. So we're gonna continue on to Isaiah Bradley here. Isaiah Bradley is basically a lecture wrapped in a superhero, basically. Like they're just lecturing you that, there was a comic that didn't sell quite well back in the day, and so now we're wagging our finger at you, and it's like Disney. The thing is that if you want it to actually be really liked by the fans, you can't just say, well, you didn't like it before, so you didn't like it before. Like when you made Iron Man, you didn't say Iron Man didn't sell, and we're gonna write it to be about him not selling. No, you wrote it to be about, you wrote him in a likable way, and there's a likable way to write Isaiah Bradley that's really fun, likable. I don't mind the character. I just mind Disney's attitude towards it. Their attitude of like, you didn't buy that comic. You didn't buy that comic of him back in whenever it was, so therefore we wrote the character to be as snippy as all get out. And basically, there's this whole thing with him where he was already in solitary confinement for years and years prior, and he just kind of, now since he might go into solitary confinement again, it's a big deal. And again, it would be a big deal if the movie cared, because again, you could have had Bucky be the one that does this again, and it would have worked. And speaking of Bucky, I'm glad that I want to get to this thing with Bucky before something else happens with tech. So Bucky is a congressman now. He only shows up for like one scene just to say you don't need the serum. He's basically written in at the last minute to be the writer's notes of the writers trying to tell the audience off for not, because they knew the audience were going to be mad that he doesn't have the serum yet he's able to fight Red Hulk. Why does he have the shield when there's Bucky in them? Well, the writers through Bucky are basically just saying, shut up, you don't get to you don't get to have that opinion. We've made Falcon who he is now, and that's all that's going to be now. And he made the right choice, even though you immediately gave the shield up immediately in the very next thing we see you in. Doesn't matter. Apparently, according to Marvel, that he gave it up and he did all this stuff. Apparently, he just kind of, it's fine. And so Bucky's a congressman now, apparently. Uh, and apparently in the Thunderbolts, apparently he loses it too. So it's like, good thing we said that. I guess there was supposed to be a bigger deal with that, I guess, and maybe the Thunderbolts will make it a bigger deal. But I think there is a hidden movie in this that could have been really great. Instead of having Falcon be the one that fights, Harrison Ford and all that, and does the Red Hulk thing or something, Bucky should have been Cap in this. And he should have been, he could have still been Congressman Captain America, and his Winter Soldier past that he let go, and we could have seen the campaign of him trying to, because without it you kind of think, wait, how are you able to become a congressman? You killed like so many people so publicly, so it's like, why, how did that never come up? But anyway, though, it's just like, and again, I'm gonna have comments now, people saying, because he was this, because he was that. Okay, yeah, all right, but the point is that it's like, Bucky should have been the main hero of the film. He could have been the Congress, because even Harrison Ford says, I barely got this thing through Congress. He could have been the congressman leading against the treaty. He could have been the one fighting him on the treaty. He could have been the one saying, this doesn't need to be. It could have been like a Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, but made into a Captain America movie, where like he's telling the president, Mr. President, you will not be told, you will not be mining that just for your own selfish desires or something. The world doesn't need that or something. And then he's like, the world doesn't need more adamantium. And then he ends up fighting the president literally as Red Hulk in the end. And it would have worked in their metaphorical representation of who's who, because you could have made Bucky into one of the Hollywood's favorites. You could have in DC. You could have made Hollywood one of Hollywood's favorites in DC be Bucky very easily. I don't know which one you would make it, but you would. I'm sure you could have done something there. So it feels like there's a better movie there. And then not just that, I believe I heard once that this guy, John Walker, was supposed to be in this movie, but they decided not to and just keep him in Thunderbolts because they thought they didn't want to put him in both Thunderbolts and this. I think he should have been in this. Not only that, I think him and Bucky should, and I think if Bucky doesn't be the Captain America, this guy definitely should have. Because here's my opinion on John Walker. All right, I think John Walker, unfortunately, is what quote unquote modern Disney writers think of Captain America. You see, Captain America used to be this likable hero that fought for what's right, and the problem is that John Walker is all that too. But the problem is that the internet and modern writers have decided that no, he bad now. He bad now. That idea of the American guy that wants to save America, that's not, that can't happen. That can't happen. We gotta have, Falcon yelling at senators to do better. Google it. It happened. It happened. That did happen. And it just so in my opinion, I think John Walker is the most unfairly hated character. And I was really excited to see him in Thunderbolts. We see that he's going to come in Thunderbolts because I want to see more of him. I do. I want to see more of him as either U.S. agent or I think there could be a whole show written around him. Do like a Jack Reacher type thing, but with John Walker here. And I think it'd be a good thing. I know he's not like as big as Reacher, so you can't have like the intimidating look or something. But you can make it like Justified or something where he's like the sheriff type thing, and he's like going through a small town clearing out crime or something. Like I liked Soldier Boy in The Boys. I think this guy is like Soldier Boy. They even stole a scene. The scene with the shield where he kills the guy with the shield, they even stole that from John Walker and put it into Soldier Boy. So I guess maybe that's why, because I did like John Walker because, again, people say, oh, he killed somebody. Yeah, his friend got brutally murdered in front of him and chased the guy who did it. And he's like, how dare he go in and arrest those protests, those real life inspired people that were inspired by something that was happening in a summer that was very if I say more, YouTube will take it off. So anyway, the point is that it's just like I think John Walker should have been in this, and if they were dead set on Bucky not being Cap and being the hero, why not have this guy who has the super serum, by the way? He took a version of the super serum, so he has it in him. He literally has the super serum. He's a perfect pick, and he should just be shoved into the thing. Because I think he's actually more relatable than Chris Evans is Captain America, because Chris Evans has kind of had a lot of like Cap was good right there, but I think Walker is a great next progression of Cap if he can't have Bucky. Which, again, I think Bucky should have been the one. But if you can't have Bucky, John Walker is a great one. And honestly, I support him as the U.S. agent guy, too. I like him. I think he's a good guy. I think he's really well written because you really do feel bad for him. Like when you're watching the show and you're not like really in support of Falcon, or if you're really not in support of the guy who plays Falcon now, or if you're, if you're not like, yeah, and I think it would have been a better thing because I think Walker, if Bucky was dead, like I said earlier, if Bucky was dead set on not being the god, like the Mr. Smith goes to Washington thing, like I said before, if he said no to that and he just wanted a cameo and did not want anything to do with this movie outside of that cameo, next script I would have done if I were the writers would have been John Walker as U.S. agent does it next, because I think that there's something in that too, where like Harrison Ford's like doing these, like you could have went really far with Harrison Ford's character, I believe, but you kind of didn't really do a lot with it. You did stuff with him. Just the problem is that you don't really care about anything he says because you're like, just get to the Red Hulk already. Get to the Red Hulk scene that we all saw in every trailer, every promo, every single, poster and advertisement for it. And it kills the momentum of the movie. It does. I'm going to say it. Look at that. He's even in that poster. But every poster had Red Hulk, every single trailer, every single merchandising thing. You should have hid Red Hulk. But you decided, the writers did, that no, we're not going to hide Red Hulk. We're going to hide the villain that you don't really care that much about. Yeah, why? It's kind of like saying we're not going to hide what the new Godzilla design looks like, but we're going to, because we said we made a new design for Godzilla, but we're not going to hide that Godzilla thing. What we're going to do is we're going to show, we're going to hide the design, we're going to hide the actor general guy. You know how every Godzilla film has to have that one general that's like, nuke him, nuke him. Yeah, well, what if they just decide we're going to hide that guy? We're going to hide that guy. You're going to hear his voice. And then at the end, you're going to show him. And again, I know there is a little bit of a difference, but again, it's just, the CGI doesn't look that great. Tell me it does. It doesn't look that great. And it didn't look that great on Red Hulk either, I'm going to say. It was all right in parts, but I heard a lot of criticism online that, it was very cartoony. And I 100% believe that. I didn't believe, I kind of was like, yeah, it doesn't, when I saw clips of it, I was like, it doesn't look that bad. But when you see it as the movie, you do kind of see, they did change the lighting a little bit for the clips. They did change it a little bit. And it does, you can see where, the editing's bad and stuff. And the problem is that it feels like I said earlier, 3 separate movies at once. So, you don't really care because it's like, oh, movie 2 ended? Oh, okay, when does movie 3 end? Okay, when does movie 1 just ended. Okay. And, and apparently the treaty gets signed. Yeah, that's another thing, too. The treaty gets signed. Oh, wait, does it? No, I don't. See, that's the thing. They don't even make it clear. They put a news article up that says, treaty. And then they treat it like it was a celebration. And then it's like, and then later there's oh, by the way, it wasn't signed. So, okay. So, but then they kind of make it seem like the treaty was signed later. So that's what I mean. There's a lot of back and forth with this movie. A lot of this happened. Wait, did it happen? No, it didn't actually happen. Over here, it didn't. Because there's this one guy. There's this one, big buff guy that Cap was fighting. I want to say this. Falcon couldn't even fight this buck guy. The new Cap. I know I said I wasn't going to call him that, but I'm just going to say it for right now. The new Cap couldn't even fight a basic bodyguard without a little help from his technology and his shield. He could, he couldn't even fight that. It's so how was he supposed to fight Red Hulk if he can't even fight the bodyguard? So basically the problem. So the treaty might have been signed. It might not have been signed because, like I said before, it apparently seemed to have said that it was signed, wasn't signed, and the world's better though. The world's better though because the president went to jail after 5 months of being president. Word for word how it's written. Word for word how it's written. Like I said before, here I am with the script in my hand, and it basically says that. So tell me it doesn't. Watch the movie and tell me it doesn't. So anyway, yeah, back to what I was saying about John Walker. I think John Walker, there could have been a great thing with him because he's this, because he's a soldier, he's a veteran, and his friend died, so him fighting the Harrison Ford, and this would have made sense because it would have been oh, here we go. But Falcon, here's the thing, they treat it like Falcon and Harrison Ford have had this long history, and I know you'll say, oh, but William Hurt and him did, but no, this is a different guy. I'm gonna say it, this is a different guy. Everybody's like, no, it's not. Yes, it is. It's a different guy. William Hurt portrayed it more like Sam Elliott did, and he did it, where it was basically, he's the hard-nosed general. Sometimes he'll kind of realize the error of his ways, but overall, he's the military told me to do this. gonna do that. The problem is that Harrison's very whiny sometimes, very like at one minute he's like, "Get off my plane! I was a wartime president. I'll be a wartime, I was a wartime general and a wartime president. I'll be now." And then the next minute he's like, "Honey, please pick up the phone to daddy. Come on, pick up the phone to daddy. Come on." So and before it didn't seem like there was a problem. Before, William Hurt never seemed like there was a problem with it. Like William Hurt and like when William Hurt was playing all those years, he never seemed to let on that there was like a family dilemma or something. Maybe I'm not remembering right, but this is the thing though, is that you've got like Harrison's just basically Harrison. That's what I'm going to say. Like, he's just Harrison Ford. So you're not getting anything new with him. You're just getting Harrison Ford. And you're not even getting, like, very entertained Harrison Ford. You're getting, "Where's my paycheck? Give it to me now. Thank you." Honestly, when I was watching the bloopers, I was more entertained by his performance in the bloopers. Because he's basically just doing Air Force One again. But if the Air Force One guy was president from the 80s to now somehow. So he's like... Again, they want him to be the current guy in DC. The problem is that I think he would do a lot better as the guy before him in DC. Because he's so... You can just feel the, like, lack of caring and the lack of, like... And you needed somebody... And again, I'm not saying he doesn't care. I'm just saying that he has a lack of caring. Where it's just like... Oh... just so, like when you're watching his scenes, it's like, just like, yeah, I remember when you said that. Yeah, remember when, like, I don't know, it's just like it, even when he's doing the treaty, it feels like he's basically just doing Jack Ryan again from back in the 80s. And yeah, you were a good actor in the 80s. The problem is now is that he just has, like some actors just decide to only do gimmicks, and that's their thing. Like Adam Sandler has the squeaky voice and all that he does a lot. And Jim Carrey does the dancing around and stuff. But there's kind of a lack of like trying something new from Hollywood now. So like even the actors have kind of reached a point where Pedro Pascal is just going to play Pedro Pascal. Anthony Mackie is just going to play Anthony Mackie. And again, it's great to a point. But after a while, it becomes where you don't really see the character. You just see them. And sometimes you need to see the character because it's like, come on, Will Smith's not going to be like that in that action movie. And then it's like, oh, wait, he's just playing Will Smith again. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's just like, Harrison's just playing Harrison. He's figured out that as long as he just goes gruff and he does, like, the table smashing and the get off my plane stuff. He, I guess years at Comic-Con just saying, get off my plane, kind of did it. But the problem is that he's just so... You know what I mean. If you watch this movie, you know what I mean. He just feels so past the period where this would have been really fun. Like if we had put Harrison in prior, and allowed him to grow into the thing. But the problem is you feel the insertion is the thing. You feel like some characters, when one actor dies, they move another actor in. And the thing is that sometimes you can't tell, and other times you can tell. And this one you can definitely... And again, I know it's not the fault of William Hurt and the fault of the studio because the guy died. But like I said before, why not, like I said in part 1, why not have Sam Elliott play the guy? Because he did it before. He did it when He didn't do it when Liv Tyler was in. Right, you're right. But like... Neither did Harrison Ford either. So it's like, it's like, so you could have had Elliot in there and you could have crossed off that. But I guess they're saving that for when Harrison eventually decides, I'm not doing this anymore. Like he did with Han Solo. So they can basically just say, all right, all right, Sam Elliott, you're the last one. Come on. We got to pretend like there's some interest in this anymore. And again, maybe Harrison could have played a new character, maybe he didn't have to play Ross, because it doesn't. They think that they transferred the character who played before, and the character. But it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like having Frasier play a general at one point, and he does really well, and then like Frasier dies, and in the sequel they cast like Jim Carrey in it, and then it's like it's the same thing. We just mentioned he doesn't have a beard this time. It's like, no, it's not. It's not the same thing. There is a difference. You see the difference. You feel the difference. There isn't the same character. And I know, again, the guy died. I know the guy died. I know he did, and I know that's why they did it. But the problem is that I think you had a good guy in Elliot. Sam Elliott was just sitting there, and he can do the whole, Chef, I don't know. He can do all that kind of yelling about where's the treaty and where's the treaty. Like I know, like, but he can do it just as well as Harrison can. And Harrison's not a bad casting choice. I just think, put him in the same role, take the Ross thing off, put a new character on it. I'm sure there's a character in Marvel that you could have bent to be like him. I'm sure there is. I'm sure he wasn't the only character. And then you could have had Elliot play Ross in this movie. That's how you should have done it. You should have had Elliot play Ross in this movie, go through the whole Red Hulk. I'm turning into Red Hulk. I'm Red Hulk now. And, you could have had him, and you could even have the little Sam Elliott. Because Sam Elliott has a mustache, you see, too, famously. So, like, even you could have put the little Sam Elliott mustache on the Red Hulk thing. And then you could have, and then you could have had just, like, Elliot in this movie. And then you could have had Elliot in this movie as the president. And then you could have had him step down and do all the he's in prison thing that you had to do. Seriously, I don't know why he had to be jailed and I don't know why he had to step down, be jailed, and then happy ending. I don't understand. Unless you remember Hollywood fan fiction about modern day politics, then that's that, because that's why they did it. They did modern day fan fiction politics, like Hollywood always does. So I'm just saying, I think Elliot should have played the president in this. He still could have done all that wishful thinking about modern day stuff, with Elliot. And then he could have been shelved, and then he could have picked Harrison Ford up and said, here he is over here. He could have been this other character that rises after him, just like you did with just like you did with the president who played before Harrison. And I know it wouldn't have been as much of a thing because I know Harrison's a bigger name than like Elliot. So like Sam Elliott in this. Well, I don't know if I care or not, but I don't know. You couldn't even sell it with Harrison in it. So it's like, like people didn't even want to watch it, and it failed with Harrison. So why not try Elliot? And then put Harrison in like in another movie that like or something. I don't know. I'm not saying Harrison's a bad actor. I'm just saying that Harrison's not. And then when you got this girl right behind him, they keep doing this thing in Hollywood where they have like the short girl be like this complete hard ass, and she's like 2 feet shorter than everybody else in the room. It's like, and it's just like, and it's not because of any like anything with the person. It's just that they decided this person, and even with this character too, Marvel, originally her character was of Israeli descent, and they decided, because of buzzwords that buzz happening, that they didn't want to do that anymore. So they decided to make her something else. And it's just, I forget what it was. Maybe they turned her Russian or something. I forget. But she's supposed to be like the new Black Widow. But the problem is that you're basically putting somebody who feels like she's the height of Bernadette from Big Bang Theory in the spot of... That's kind of the problem with this movie. Like, they all the likable people keep getting shoved to the corner. And you keep putting these new people in. Like the new Falcon is this guy that you don't care about. The new Black Widow is this girl you don't care about. The new Ross is just Harrison Ford in only this movie, and then he'll be done. And like with Elliot, you could have gotten maybe 1 or 2 more movies, but with Harrison, you could clearly tell in his contract it was, I only give you 1, and that's all you're gonna get. So yeah, so it's basically just it's just I don't know. It's just like so, and then you got like Falcon as Cap now. Like it's just like that's the problem. Like you're giving us all the, and you can't even have Bucky be Bucky because now Bucky has to be a congressman for some reason, and just for a sequel that gets rid of it instantly, apparently, according to plot leaks. That I've watched all. According to people online who have reviewed the movie. Again, I don't know if they're correct or not, but apparently they decided that he's not even, and even clips that Marvel aired. You have like Elaine from Seinfeld basically saying, "We're not good, we're, like so much for your political career." What did that last? 5 seconds, or something. Look it up. It happened. Look up the Marvel Entertainment YouTube channel. It is right there. Marvel's special YouTube channel aired that. So and that's kind of the thing is that you can't even have Bucky as the Winter Soldier anymore because they don't know what to do with him. Like they want him to be Bucky, but they also want him to be Congressman, or it's like they kind of are hoping to kind of. It's like because I heard a rumor that Anthony Mackie's probably not going to come back to Marvel after this. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. If that's just internet gossip, I don't know. But if it is true, it's a shame because he's not a bad actor. Just the problem is you shoved him in the wrong role. Keep him as Falcon. Everything's fine. Shove him in the Cap role. That's where the problem is because he's not meant for Cap. And he doesn't even have the attitude for Cap either. And, here's the thing is that it just feels like they're keeping Bucky around just to kind of be like, I'm the last one you like. I'm here. I'm standing in this movie. I'm here. I'm in the background of this end credit scene. I'm in the background of that end credit scene. Oh, and there's an end credit scene where the villain basically says, "More movies are coming. There's going to be more threats and more movies." And it's like, okay, yeah, Marvel, we know. We know you have more movies in the pipeline. How many of them are actually going to be made, though? Because this movie was chopped up like all get out, went through multiple reshoots, millions and millions of dollars wasted. So it's just kind of like and it failed anyway. So it's like it just gets to a point where it's like why? And then then when you hear the news about Thunderbolts being this thing, being about the depression and stuff, it's like Marvel, what are you doing? That does not need to be about depression. So anyway, that's just my feelings. Thank you. And I will see you next time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.